Hi everybody, my name is Sarah and welcome back to Edzucating Adventures. I have a feeling that many of us are familiar with the line, I'll huff, I'll puff, and I'll blow your house down. And I have a feeling most of us were probably picturing the big bad wolf when I said that. Ever since we were kids, wolves have been portrayed as scary monsters. But not only are wolves really cool, they're also really important in nature. And unfortunately, a lot of wolves are endangered. Today, we're going to be learning about how scientists are working to save one of the most endangered subspecies of gray wolf, the Mexican gray wolf. So let's get into it. Mexican gray wolves, which are also called Mexican wolves or lobos, are one of the smallest subspecies of gray wolf. They live in the American Southwest, over in Arizona and New Mexico, and down in Mexico as well, and they're typically found in forest and woodland habitats. Like all wolves, Mexican wolves are carnivores. They feed mostly on large hoofed animals like elk, white-tailed deer, peccaries. They'll also eat smaller animals like rabbits, squirrels, and even wild turkeys. Mexican wolves, also like most wolves, live in a group called a pack. And a pack of Mexican wolves is usually made of a breeding pair and their offspring, their pups, from previous years. They can all work together to establish territory and hunt large prey, and they have these really incredible ways of communicating using smell and also using vocalizations like howls or barks. I could sit here all day and share facts about Mexican wolves with you guys, but what we're really here today to talk about is how Mexican wolves are one of the most endangered subspecies of wolves in the world. And this isn't too surprising considering that wolves and humans have had a bit of a complicated relationship for a really long time. Humans, our population has been growing and growing and growing. And as that's happened, we need more space. We spread out across the landscape, we build roads, we build cities, we build farms. We even take some of that space and we kind of push the wildlife out, and we use that space for livestock like cows and sheep to be able to roam and graze. Humans began moving into Mexican wolf habitat in the early 1900s. And as humans moved in, they pushed lots of animals out, including the deer and elk that the wolves normally fed on. Now, instead of there being deer and elk, there was livestock. There were cows and sheep. So the wolves began feeding on the livestock instead of their usual prey. This was, of course, kind of upsetting to the farmers, and farmers would hunt or kill the wolves in order to protect their livestock. When humans and wildlife live too close to each other, it can create lots of problems. We call this human-wildlife conflict, and it's been a big problem with wolves for hundreds of years. By the 1970s, the Mexican wolf population had gotten so small that they were officially listed as an endangered species in the United States. This was great because it made it illegal for people to hunt or kill them, but unfortunately, their populations had already gotten so small that more drastic measures needed to be taken. Scientists went out and they captured all the remaining Mexican wolves from the wild, and they brought them together to create a captive breeding program. Captive breeding programs are programs where we take endangered animals, we bring them to a zoo or some other facility where we give them a safe space to reproduce and have healthy offspring. During the time where there were no Mexican wolves left in the wild, they were living in these zoos, they were breeding, and their population in captivity began to grow. Finally, in 1998, about 30 years after Mexican wolves had officially become extinct in the wild, the first Mexican wolves were released back out into the wild. 11 individuals were released into the Blue Range Wolf Recovery Area in Arizona and New Mexico, and scientists watched these wolves closely while they learned how to live in the wild, and we saw success. And over the next several years, dozens of wolves were released into that same area, and they were monitored very, very closely by scientists. Many of these wolves that were released went on to live full and healthy lives, starting new packs and having offspring. But scientists kind of agreed that releasing adult wolves into the wild can be a little bit challenging because they were raised by people. They don't know exactly how to be wild wolves right away when they're released. So, in about the last decade, scientists developed a new method called cross-fostering. Cross-fostering is a really delicate process where scientists take Mexican wolf pups that were born in the zoo and they kind of sneak them into the den of a wild wolf to be raised by those wild wolf parents. Like I said, this is a really delicate process. Scientists are monitoring all the Mexican wolves in the world very closely. Zoo pups need to be born at almost the same time as wild pups. And then scientists take some of the pups from the zoo, they take them out into the wild, they wait for the wild parents, the wild wolf parents, to go off, to go hunting, and then they take all the pups out of the wild den. They take measurements, they collect blood samples and other data from those pups to learn more about them, and then they take all the pups and they rub them together so that they all smell exactly the same. They sneak all the pups back into the den. We kind of joke that wolves can't count, so when the wolf parents come back, as long as everybody smells the same, they don't realize that their family has grown and they raise those zoo-born pups as their own. They learn how to hunt, they learn how to create social relationships, they learn how to establish pack structure. The wolf pups that are cross-fostered tend to be far more successful because they were raised by wolves and not people. Thanks to the incredible work that scientists have been doing to protect Mexican wolves for about 50 years, we're starting to see some real improvements in their population size. The wild population of Mexican wolves is well over 200 individuals, and in captivity, like in zoos, we're nearing about 400 individuals. Mexican gray wolves are one of my favorite animals to talk about because I feel that they really show the power of conservation and human action. Of course, today there are still problems with predators like wolves and humans, that human-wildlife conflict we mentioned before, but scientists are working very hard to continue to find ways for humans and animals to coexist. All right, you guys, I know that was a lot of information about Mexican wolves, but I hope you feel empowered about the amazing things that humans can do to protect wildlife. If you would like to learn more about Mexican wolves, be sure to check out our website. The link is below. There is quizzes, videos, activities, so much more. We can't wait to see you guys at our next adventure. Thank you.